No place to hang out. And then I can't blame all of this sun. Oh no, we're gonna ride down electric. Hi everyone, welcome. Hi Roger, hi Christian. Thank you so much everyone for being here. I'm gonna give it another couple minutes till everybody gets in. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. All right.
What happened to Bob Marley?
I switched it up today, Christian. Do you notice? So exciting. This was a recommendation from our team member Noah. He's like, he wanted to pump up the energy today, so we did a little bit different. I'm glad you noticed though. So that might be my brand right there.
Yeah, it's like the reggae vibe, you know. Like,
that's awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for noticing.
Yeah, when you think about CX, you just.
Yeah. Well, I figured Electric Avenue works too, right? It's a whole new road we're taking.
Yep.
All right, so we'll wait another 1 minute and then we'll get started here. We've got quite a few people registered for today, so we want to be able to go through this with as many people as possible here.
And I see a lot of you are having trouble sitting still with this awesome music playing, so feel free to bust a move in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. We're all about it. Roger, I've never seen your moves yet. We haven't danced yet. Brittany and Adele, feel free to turn on your videos. We'd love to see you. Doesn't matter if you're wearing pajamas, we're okay with that. We'd love to see everybody. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna get things going. We've got a jam-packed session for you guys today. Lawrence and I have worked really hard to put some really great content together, and we've got some of our great friends here from the CX industry as well. So we're happy to have you all. Brittany, Karen, and Adele, feel free to turn on your videos. We're gonna make this a very interactive session, so we'd love to see you. If not, that's okay too. But we would be delighted to kind of have you engage with us. So welcome to the 7 Steps to Customer Experience Mastery. It's a complimentary webinar presented by the Inside View, and we're really excited to share with you some of the ways that your brand and your organization can really set yourself apart from others. And so we put together, really it's our signature approach to customer experience mastery, paying special attention to a lot of customer experience competencies that are kind of non-negotiable parts of every organization needs to implement. So without further ado, our promise today is so that you walk away with how to instantly create customer experience excellence for your staff, your customers, without spending countless hours kind of thinking about what to do next, or, you know, the age-old question of blowing your budget. And we all know COVID's presented some challenges to us, and so we want to be able to do things. We want to keep it simple. It's not about creating a new wheel. It's a lot of it is just about making sure that you're using the tools that you already have, with some innovative new tools as well to support you. But we want you to leave with the tools that you need to be able to start this process. But remembering, it's not an overnight fix. This is changing human behavior. And so it doesn't necessarily happen like that, but we will give you the tools that you need to start really kind of creating some great momentum within your organization. So our goal is, again, to give you some tangible tools, tips. Most importantly, Lawrence and I have put together some stories of our experiences that'll help you kind of keep these tools and tips top of mind as you kind of move through this customer experience journey. And if you stay till the end, we're super excited to share some tools and tips with you, but also some templates and some extra other bonuses. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to my co-host and colleague in business, Lawrence Levinson.
Thank you so much, Crystal, and good morning to everyone. My name is Lawrence Levinson, and I am a customer experience, sales, business development, and marketing strategist of 20 years across businesses in different industries, from banking to consumer packaged goods, testing, inspection, certification, and software. I am the current chair of the Toronto CXPA. And for those of you that know a thing or two about the fascination personality assessment. We're going to talk about it later, but I'm designated the rock star, which means I'm a bold, innovative visionary that loves to share my passion for CX best practices. So here we are. And finally, I'm a proud papa of 3 kids and a goofy little corgi named Peaches, who thinks she runs not just the house, but the entire neighborhood.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can't wait to see that corgi up live. I've seen him on or her. I've seen her on the screen so many times, but one day I'll get to see her live. And so that takes us to what makes today's webinar different, Lawrence? Tell us a little bit about why you think it's going to be a little different than normal.
So again, we appreciate you giving us the time today. We want to make sure that we deliver outstanding value. And so we ask that for the next 60 minutes that we have your full attention. Again, if your cameras aren't on, feel free to turn them on. This is a safe space. Every conversation we have stays here. So, don't hold back on challenges that you face within your organization. We're here to support each other as a community. And so when we engage in breakout sessions, we want to make sure that you're ready and equipped with what you need so that you can be a part of the conversation. What makes us different than others is that we are going to give you tools, tips, and actions that you can start using right now. And again, we talked about budgets earlier. We want to get creative and smart so that you can speak with other like-minded professionals from across the globe that are with us today in terms of how we can share successes, but more importantly, the challenges. And that's what we want to be honest about today. The path to CX bliss is not an easy one. And so only by speaking openly and transparently with each other are we going to be able to help each other to move forward.
Awesome, awesome. And so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Crystal DeCuna. I'm the Customer Experience Officer here at the Inside View. People say I have a PhD in people skills. And so it's something, people skills are something I'm very passionate about. I've had an opportunity to learn from some customer experience greats like Disney and the likes of Tony Robbins and John Maxwell. My fascination advantage is the people's champion. And so it's really about being somebody that's supportive of everything that people do and loving the people industry. So you can imagine me in this COVID world. I'm starting to really love the Zoom world, but I miss people a lot. I'm a proud football mom, and any given Sunday, sometimes Friday or Saturday, you can see me on the field with definitely my pom-poms cheering for my son. We're doing touch football these days. It's a little bit different than normal, but that's who I am. And so together, Lawrence and I, as well as some of our colleagues on here that I know are equally as passionate about CX, are going to share with you some really great tips. So let's dive in. So listen, over the years, we've done a lot of things right. We've together, again, Lawrence and I on different paths, but we've been able to lead organizations to achieve really award-winning success in customer experience. I had an opportunity to work with a home builder, and we were able to make some monumental changes and shifts with their customer experience. We've built multi-million-dollar sales teams, as well as been globally recognized for customer experience excellence within our field. Customer experience is a relatively new industry, right? It's not the same as customer service, my friends. It's very different. And so for those of you that are on here that may not know, it's an actual industry. Customer experience is something that is near and dear to our hearts, but also an opportunity for your organization to be globally recognized for it. Listen, we've also done a lot of things wrong. Anybody here ever make mistakes in business? Put your hand up if you've made mistakes in business. Anybody? Come on, I know you're not shy. Listen, we've learned a lot of things over the years. We've hired the wrong people. Anybody ever hire the wrong people? All right. We've wasted time and money on training programs or on consulting or on all sorts of things. We've wasted time and money. We've assumed that big budgets will change things, and it doesn't. Has anybody ever assumed that one? Hands up if you have. You need more money. Hey, I can do more with more money. That's something that a lot of people say. But this is about getting creative, right? It's not just about more money. The age-old saying is more money, more problems. So it's not always about those big budgets. And taking too long to change. Hey, like you're on this call today, so chances are you're of that change pivotal mindset. But does that happen sometimes? It takes us a little too long to shift and change, right? That happens to all of us. And And so we want to be able to give you some tools to get out of that mindset. Also, investing in marketing in other areas of the business, but not our people. That seems to happen. That's a common challenge I hear all the time, that, you know what, we got to invest in marketing. We got to throw some money in marketing. I hear this a lot with real estate companies or with software companies or online businesses. We got to invest in that marketing. We need to do that paid advertising. My friends, it's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but we really got to invest in our people. Investing in our people doesn't necessarily cost money. I mean, if you have money, it helps. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's about these big budgets to invest in your people. Sometimes it's about the time, right? Time is that differentiator sometimes. So as we've done a lot of things right, and as we've done a lot of things wrong, Lawrence, you know, after doing this for years, what have you learned?
So after doing this for years, and I think a lot of us on the call, we could probably talk about this together and have quite an engaging conversation around the scar tissue we've all suffered from a lot of the, you know, doing things the wrong way. But some of the salient points to highlight are getting clear and being transparent. So, you know, we're going to talk a lot about vision, mission, values, and this sort of thing going forward. But, you know, getting very clear as an organization on what the actual path is, what are the goals, and being transparent with them is something that, you know, sounds intuitively simple, but so many organizations miss that first critical step that every other strategy will feed back up to. And that ties into leaders. You know, leadership has a critical role to play in the culture development, tying back to that vision. And, you know, culture eats strategy for lunch. We hear that all the time. We hear that culture is the new strategy. But, you know, where that's really coming from is, you know, we can put the most beautiful strategies in place, but if we don't have a real culture, or as Crystal was talking about earlier, of, you know, employee experience and employees that are equally as excited about the brand as we want our customers to be, well, then, you know, the strategies are going to be literally thrown out the window. The emotional component of how we're all wired is often overlooked, especially in buying behavior. So, you know, we're all in the business of business here and generating profitability and revenue. When you want repeat buying behavior, knowing that, you know, up to 95% of people's buying decisions are subconscious, the emotions cannot be overlooked, which many organizations forget about. How our customers and our employees feel about it is really important. And, you know, we talked earlier about hiring the wrong people. It's a slow process. It should be a slow process. So, you know, the expression of hire slow, fire fast, take time to find the right person. Don't just fill seats to say, okay, we just want that off the plate. It's vital to the organization, and you should have a hiring process. Sales takes time, and we'll talk about that as well. But again, it's a process. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be flexible. What worked last year will not work this year with changing expectations and consumer emotions. And finally, coaching our customers and our teams. So, you know, I know quite a few of you on the line here. Roger Pugsley, hats off to you, one of the finest coaches I know on this earth. You know, coaching our customers and our teams up levels our results, plain and simple.
Yeah, and you know, again, going to what we've discovered a lot of things the hard way, and through trial and error. Being with one organization for 15 years, I was with Danny Leather for a good 15 years, and then moved to a home building industry for another 7 or 8 years, and in between, everything in between. But what we've learned the hard way is that there's actually a process to creating customer experience excellence. There's actually a system that, you know, if you have these foundational principles within your organization and are able to practice them, there's a system that that works. And I didn't realize that until I mean, it took a lot of long nights and painful situations to really understand what that process was. But now we've been able to perfect it. We understand what it is. And what we're really excited to do is to give it to you in today's webinar, but also we'll be able to support with giving you a template to be able to follow and start creating that within your organization. So we want to be able to give you everything you need to start that thinking process. Awesome. So the 7 secret steps to achieving customer experience mastery. And I say secret because it's actually kind of funny. They're secret because I think sometimes we don't understand how they all work together. But you know, every one of these things are important, but it's how you put it together and the order in which you put it together that's really going to make the difference for you and your organization. So number 1, is Vision Vitals. We're going to spend time on each one of these in depth, but I'm going to share with you the first 7. So this might be the one you want to take a screenshot of if you'd like, but you will have access to this recording afterwards. So number 1 is Vision Vitals. Number 2 is Lovesick Leadership. Number 3 is Culture Connection. 4 is Design to Delight. Hey, we all know about top talent, how to hire, how to onboard top talent. Sales and service mastery is understanding what that sales process is really all about and mastering it so that you're not selling like everybody else is selling. And then coaching confidence within your people. This kind of brings it full circle so that we're able to really up level and coach that, you know, the great coaches, the Bill Belichick's and the Nick Nurses of the world, you know, they coach confidence within their organization, within their people. They're not just coaching the game, they're coaching the behaviors, the habits that are kind of creating those great successes. Awesome. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Vision Vitals, which is our first step. So Lawrence, you've got a great story for us on how a company has really shared their vision and executed their vision. Can I pass it off to you, my friend?
Yes, thank you, Crystal. And so I'll just say very quickly, we love to tell stories and we have quite a few today. We also recognize time is short. So we're going to move a little bit faster than usual just to get it all in there. This is where Q&A will come into play. And if you guys want to talk about any of them in greater depth, we are available. So let us know. But so this particular story around Vision Vitals, on your quest to CX lists, as I said earlier, you need to get clear on your vision that sets the expectations through the entire organization. My favorite recent story is one from my gold standard of the hospitality industry, which is Fairmont. And I see Wumni, welcome, has joined us from Alberta. So she would be familiar with the Fairmont Banff Springs. Last Christmas, we went there for a ski holiday with friends and family. Came back from a lovely walk in the beautiful woods of Banff to see the roof rack on the car that we were driving smashed to smithereens. So you can imagine the feeling at the bottom of our guts of, oh my goodness, what just happened? It turns out that one of the young car parkers from New Zealand who was in town not only drove into the garage with the roof rack on, but like floored it into there and just completely obliterated the thing. Before we could even really get upset, the staff saw us, they ran over and they instantly went into solution mode. And this is where empowerment is so critical for the vision of the organization. So, you know, Fairmont has core promises to their employees and how they should conduct their behavior in every moment of every day for each other and their fellow customers. And in this case, because they had that level of empowerment, they were able to say, okay, firstly, we profusely apologize. This is not the Fairmont promise. Now, what are we going to do about it? We've ordered a replacement roof rack from Canmore, which is 30 minutes away. It's already on its way here. Now, it's not the identical model, which we were able to match from the inside of the smashed one. So we've ordered one of those as well. It's going to take a month. And when it arrives, we'll come to Calgary, we'll swap them out. And in the meantime, they Googled the drive back to where we were going and they saw that there was a lot of traffic. So said, you know what, why don't you guys go upstairs, dinner's on us. Kids can have as much dessert as they want. Adults, you can drink as much as you want, knowing that you're, you know, gonna have to drive. But, you know, take some time, relax, we've got this, and literally took care of every pain point to the degree that I'm now a bigger fan of Fairmont than I was before from having such a disastrous event occur. So again, it ties down to vision, which is clear. They knew exactly what they needed to do, and they were empowered to do it without going through so many levels of escalations that would have added to the time, which would have created more stress.
Yeah, and that aligns so well with, as organizations need to get clear on their vision and the vital signs in the organization. And we call it Vision Vitals because it's like a vital sign. You need to know and kind of have your finger on the pulse of what your vision, your mission, but also your culture, your core values, and your customer experience promise, right? And so clearly their promise was to deliver an exceptional experience for you, right? That's what they want. They wanted to make sure that, yes, we made a mistake, but it's part of our vision and part of our mission as an organization. And part of our promise is that you leave happy, right? And then they did so much more. I know the whole story is great. And it's nice to know that they stayed connected with you. But one thing I'll point out here in Vision Vitals, for everybody on the call today is to make sure that you really have that CX promise. I think that's one of the pieces that misses when you've got your vision and your mission statement hanging on your wall, maybe on the front page of your website. Y'all have it, I know. It's important, but how do you make that a daily practice so that you're actually communicating that to your entire organization? We teach one of the principles we teach in the course is to do a daily huddle. How do you spend 8 minutes a day planning and preparing for your 8-hour day as an organization? So if you're able to kind of get together and do that huddle, you're also able to bring and align, how you've practiced your vision, how you've had customer experience success, how a person in the organization, how Brittany was able to practice customer experience, their promise for the day, right? So you're able to really kind of make it top of mind by communicating and talking about your vision vitals on a daily basis. So it's one thing to understand it. It's another thing to dive deep and to make it part of your practice, because this is really that foundational piece, right? If you're talking about customer experience on a daily and you're communicating it on a daily, you're holding your team accountable on a daily, that's the foundation of everything else. Awesome. So let me get back to screen sharing here for a sec. You can all see that. Perfect. So our next step is Lovesick Leadership. And so when it comes to Lovesick Leadership, I want to tell you a little bit of a story of Danielle Leather. I mentioned to you guys I was there for 15 years, phenomenal organization. And one thing that I learned at a really young age, I was 16 when I started with Danielle Leather, is that my leaders were lovesick about moving me forward, about making sure that I started at a frontline sales professional, and it was like 16 to 17 to 18 to 19. They were so passionate, whether they move forward or not, they were passionate about pushing me forward and making sure that I achieved the goals I wanted to achieve with the company. Now, I didn't know that was going to be my career. I was in university, and it was just something that I was really good at. I loved selling leather. I loved buying leather. So it kind of worked, right? It worked out really good. But because they were able to embed that kind of a mindset in me at such a young age, I understand now what that really looks like. And so, who has kids? Hands up if you've got kids. You got kids? And so, with our kids, with our children, we want to be able to see our children do better than us. Our goal is to make sure that we push them far, far to bigger and brighter things than we do. And there's that concept of being lovesick about our kids. And so how can we transition that to our team, right? And also our customers, but we got to start with our internal customer first, which is our team. And so this concept of, we work with organizations sometimes that have that mindset of saying, well, if we coach them too much, then we don't have a spot for them. You really have to remove that mindset to be able to make sure that you give them your best self, and that you're able to kind of implement those skills with them so that it's almost that servant leadership mentality. Now, Lawrence, I know you said you had an experience with one of your leaders from the past that inspired you well.
So I don't want to date myself here, but my first foray into career jobs in the late 90s, I think I had, your typical authoritarian group of leaders, or I should say managers at the time. And that was work. And work to me was something you showed up and you got paid to do, and you kind of found the balance between how hard am I going to work for this individual because, we're both trying to get something from each other. And there was no spirit of fun and there was no passion. It was just work was plain old work. And the pivotal moment for me was in 2003, when I was working with the Mars Group. I had a leader as a boss. Her name was Hillary. And after my 1-month review, she gave me a call saying, I just wanted to check in to see how you're doing. And before you answer, I just want to make it clear that I see my role as your boss is to ensure that you have all the tools you need to succeed. So let's talk down to cell phone and, everything you think of that you physically need. But in terms of mental support, my role is to ensure that you're successful and that I remove any obstacles in your way. And so I know servant leadership is something we hear a lot about today. There's books on it. You've probably been to webinars over the last 6 months to talk about it. But in 2003, that was a pretty revolutionary concept for me to see a boss say, you know what, I exist on this earth to ensure you're successful, because by focusing on your success, I know that mine will naturally come. And, when I when I eventually started managing people, I took those principles and saw how not only it worked, as in I had more profitable, more productive teams, but everyone just feels better. So, you know, if we're here to be the change on earth that we want to see from each other, it's by applying those principles. And so, you know, at the underlying kind of foundation of all work is trust. And how do you foster that trust? By being in each other's corner, just as we all are for each other here today.
Yeah, and you reminded me of a great book, actually. There's so many books on leadership, but this is a great tool for those of you who haven't read it before. It's a book by Gary Chapman and Paul White. It's called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, a phenomenal book for leaders to really understand how impactful their words are when you're communicating with your team. You know, saying your body language, your tone, your communication plays such an important role, but also the words, right? The words are 7% of what they're going to understand. Everything else is just as important, but that language of appreciation is really important, and it talks a lot about how the different, Gary Chapman's written hundreds of books on the love languages you might have heard for couples and all sorts of people, but this particular one is about in the workplace. So identifying what their love language is really a great tool for you. All right, let's keep things moving here, Lawrence. We love telling stories and we talk a little bit, so we want to keep it going here. So step number 3 is culture connection. And so for those of you who know, I'm East Indian. I'm of East Indian descent. And when I think about culture, I always go back to my roots. And, you know, being of East Indian, we have so many traditions that we abide by. But I think about traditions in the work environment. They're just as equally as important. So for example, one of the traditions we have at our home is when we're having a big family celebration, we put out a plate of food for the people that have passed. And so it's really important to put out that plate because nobody can have tasted the food before the food goes on that plate. So it's got to be the first bite. So, you know, Thanksgiving, nobody can taste. Nobody knows if there's extra salt or not in anything because the first bite's got to go on that plate. And they put a cup of brandy or a cup of whiskey and a cigarette, and all the gentlemen in our family go outside. They do a prayer and they give thanks for our elders and so people that have passed. It's a tradition that no matter if you're part of our family or not, that you come to our home. You know, we have all sorts of people that come to my home on Thanksgiving, and all the gentlemen go outside. And so that's a tradition that people have come to know and expect and respect within our family. And that's the kind of idea that you need to be able to implement within your organization. What are those traditions that you want to create within your organization? And so, you know, a lot of organizations have a birthday tradition and have, you know, we have cake for our birthday. I want you to think a little bit deeper. I want you to think about how you can create some traditions to really create a culture connection. Now, this particular topic, we know culture eats strategy for lunch. We know that culture is the biggest thing, that glue that keeps us all together, that keeps us wanting to work, wanting to push the organization forward. So we could spend tons of time on culture, but, you know, really understanding those traditions. And that brings me to diversity and inclusion. You all know that diversity and inclusion has been a hot topic lately. And you know, we designed a program specifically for diversity and inclusion, but we totally twisted it and changed it to be relevant for the 21st century. And so taking a look at diversity and inclusion within your work environment, remember, not only is it about diversity and inclusion within your team, but it's also important about diversity and inclusion within your customer. Because when you're able to get diverse perspectives from your team, you're able to create diverse and innovative products for different types of customers. So I'll give you a quick example. This morning, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I said, "Oh, I noticed you registered for our webinar today. I'm so excited to see you." And she goes, "I did, Crystal, but we have is it Rosh Hashanah in a couple days? And I'm so sorry I won't be able to make it." And I thought, oh, I would never ask somebody on Christmas Eve to come onto my webinar. Why did I ask her on the eve of Rosh Hashanah to come on when I know that she celebrates that? Right? So these are these tiny little nuances that I think we really need to become more aware of. And the capabilities of customer experience management software and all the programs that we use now for customer experience relationship management, we can start to really pinpoint what's important to what customers, right? In North America, we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate a lot of our typical holidays, but there's so many other holidays that we need to be respectful of And what a beautiful way to create diversity and culture and tradition within our organizations and for our customers if we're celebrating them on a global scale, if we're celebrating the ones that are important to our entire people and our entire team. So that's food for thought on that, because I think that emotional intelligence of being, getting ahead of the game is really important, that awareness factor. Hey, we're all going to make mistakes. I just made a mistake with a dear friend and colleague today. But that awareness factor, I think, is really important. So, Lawrence, anything to add to that, or shall we move on?
No. Well, I'll just say that we do have a diversity and inclusion program that's on demand, and I encourage you guys to check it out. We also have upcoming boot camps that even qualify for the Canadian job grants throughout the various provinces. But I see we're a little bit behind on time, so let's jump into Design to Delight.
Perfect. So you've got a great story for us here, Design to Delight, Lawrence. I'd love to hear your story about Loblaws.
So Loblaws, to try and make this as quick as possible, I was in Calgary for 6 years, and I like to cook, so I like to buy the ingredients for the house. Shopping in Calgary is a lovely, delightful exercise because the stores are the same size as they are here in Toronto. In fact, in many ways, they're bigger, but the critical mass of population isn't there. So you have plenty of parking spots, and there's big aisles in your grocery stores, and it's just very easy to get around. Then 3 years ago, we moved to Toronto, where you're taking your life into your own hands when you go to Loblaws in Leslieville, close to my house. And so after a month of that type of stress of honking and people yelling and being crammed in the lines, and God forbid I stop at the cheese section to scratch my head and think, I wonder what type of cheese I want today, because I'm now clogging up the line of people who know what cheese they want. I discovered this click and collect program, which I think a lot of people have now discovered as a result of COVID, of not wanting to walk physically into the stores. But a year and 2 years ago, a lot of people were making fun of me for using this grocery pickup program where every Sunday night at 7 o'clock, I could pull into an oversized parking lot, and a 17-year-old would come out and give some thoughtful, delightful little treat, and I'd be on my way. The one that sticks out in mind was Family Day last year. A young lady came out and said, "Oh, Lawrence, hold on a second, we have something for you." And just the fact that she called me by my first name, we've never met before, but clearly she looked at it on the file, it got my attention, and she came back with a little paper bag that said, "You are so radishing," with a picture of a radish, and we so appreciate you. And inside the bag were little cinnamon hearts and little cinnamon lips and little pre-wrapped sanitized candies. So, in the age of COVID, it's important to talk about it. They took all the right precautions, along with coupons and promotions for all these upcoming services and products of the moment. But, the reason I bring up that story is when you think about the actual budget required to pull that off and to have me talking about it with all of you today, it was probably like $1 worth of paper, and then candies from their bulk barn section, which are, negligible. And then just the thought and creativity that went into, back to the Fairmont promise. How do you turn a moment into a memory? That's exactly what they did in that case, which is why I'm a big fan of them today. And so, back to Crystal's original point around budgets, there are so many things we could all be doing right now for each other and our customers without spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it.
Yeah, and that brings me to journey mapping. Like I said, we've got lots of colleagues on here today who are very familiar with customer journey mapping, and we actually have another session coming up on September 21st where we're going to go in detail on journey mapping as well. But designing to delight is how do you create that Disney experience? How do you create those magic moments? Journey mapping is a phenomenal tool to be able to get a visual representation of your employee experience as well as your customer experience. So when we're teaching Design to Delight, we give you all the tools you need to be able to really understand how to do a journey map, understand your ideal customer persona, and really map out that emotional experience. So you're able to identify those like moments of truth where you can either create some really exceptional memories for people, or that moment of truth where, hey, maybe your product or service isn't aligning and it isn't giving that impactful experience that you really worked hard to do. So you can identify and pinpoint those visually and really start to believe it. There's a great book called Driven to Delight if you want to learn a little bit more about journey mapping. It's about the Mercedes-Benz experience and how they included everybody from their janitorial staff to their CEOs involving in that customer journey mapping process. So if you want to learn more, we're happy to share. But it is probably one of our most favorite tools in the customer experience world and the design thinking practice world, because it's a visual representation of every emotional experience that people are having. The other point I want to make in journey mapping, though, is the persona. Designing that ideal persona is really important. So who is your ideal candidate if you're hiring, or who is your ideal customer? Getting into their head, getting into understanding what brands are important to them is a really important thing. And as a gift to you guys all, we're going to give you a couple templates if that helps to be able to start designing that process and having fun with it. Which leads me into top talent.
So Crystal, I'm gonna add one point to that.
Yes.
Because it ties in so well in terms of the customer journey, and we talked earlier about emotions and how critical they are for influencing buying behavior. I know Wumni isn't able to speak. She sent us a note. Thank you. Wumni is a former colleague of mine, and so she would know this very well. When we were journey mapping in a former business, we learned how much of a friction point the parking lot was. And, this ties so well into this Loblaw situation of, typically we think our journey with our customers start when they're in front of us at a counter or they're buying something from us. We often neglect the steps before of how easily did they get here, and when they did get here, how easy was it for them to park, right? I'm now shopping at Loblaws versus other grocery stores around me because parking was such an issue that they've taken that problem away from me, and I now go there just out of sheer convenience. And so, keep that in mind with the emotional component of the journey of, man, was I ever frustrated going to the grocery store before? That frustration is now gone, equals I buy from them.
Right. And so, that takes us into top talent, which is our next one. And oops, what am I going backwards here? Sorry, guys, one moment, please. There we go. All right. So trusting top talent is our next step. And so trusting top talent, are you able to see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if everybody can see my screen. Yeah, okay, perfect. So trusting top talent is our next step. And hey, we all know how hard it is to find exceptional talent, right? Would you agree? It's kind of challenging to find the most exceptional people, right? And it's one thing to find exceptional people, it's another thing to keep exceptional people. And so when you're trusting top talent, it's this magic synergy between attracting people, hiring them right, and then onboarding them correctly, and then keeping them for years to come, right? It's this magic synergy of getting everything to kind of work really well. And so I want to share a story with you about the Aloft Hotel in New Delhi. And so the Aloft Hotel, I had a chance to travel to New Delhi with my family for an entire month about 2 years ago now, over Christmas. And, beautiful new hotel. We were sitting and enjoying lunch in our hotel. And there was 9 of us. We were all sitting down and enjoying lunch. And my uncle had a really bad cough. And he was coughing. And, he was just, it was loud, and he was getting a little uncomfortable. And so he'd been coughing. We were there for about 3 days, and every day his cough was getting a little bit worse. So we're eating lunch, and he decides to go back up to the room and go get some cough syrup. So as he leaves and he gets up, and remember, in this hotel, the servers were day 3, so they know us by name. They're starting to really get to know us a little bit. And the one gentleman probably noticed that my uncle had a bit of a cough for the last couple of days. So anyways, he gets up and he walks out of the restaurant towards the elevator. And we could see the elevator because the walls were all glass. And we see a gentleman, our server, we see him running behind to catch up with my uncle with this great big cup of tea. And he had an interaction with him, and my uncle gave him a hug. And then my uncle got in the elevator, and we're all waiting to find out, like, what happened, right? So he comes back down, he tells us the story, and he said, man, that kid is awesome. I said, we said, what? He brought me like this honey lemon ginger tea with turmeric, because he said it would like totally help my throat and my cough. And man, it was good stuff, man. And if you know my uncle, he probably had a few profanities in there, but it was pretty cool the way he said it. And he was my uncle's like a real kind of biker guy, and so he's You know, he doesn't usually appreciate those little gesture type of things, but he was so appreciative of the fact that this young man had a service mindset. Now, do you think his boss told him to do that? Do you think anybody prepared him, or there was an onboarding manual that said to do something like that? But it made our trip, it made my uncle's trip, somebody who doesn't pay attention to customer service and customer experience. He's kind of a even keel, he goes with anything. Now, all of a sudden, he's a brand advocate, you know, and I've now told the story for 2 years. And so just those little moments of truth where you can hire people that can have that service mindset is really important. But also when you're finding that person and you're trying to attract that person in your job descriptions, I encourage you to print out your job description and print out the job descriptions of your competitors or colleagues and take a look. And does yours really stand out? Is yours fascinating? Right? Is yours going to attract that top talent with that service mindset? Somebody who's uber passionate about creating dynamic experiences, right? So you really want to take a look at the language and the wording within your job descriptions to be able to attract. Is it attracting that person? Because all too often a job description is, here's what you're going to do, here's our mission, here's our vision, here's what you need to do on a daily basis. But instead, I want you to align it with your vision. I want you to align it with your customer experience promise. Align it with those moments of truth that are important to you, and really make your job description fascinating. Which goes to my next point, Lawrence, a little bit about where to post your job descriptions. Is it enough to just post on Indeed anymore?
Certainly not. And just like, you know, customers are looking for as many channel choices as possible and how they choose to engage with brands, the same holds true for job hunters. And I'll just add one thing. You mentioned, you know, words and behavioral descriptors to attract certain candidates. You also want to repel certain candidates, right? And, you know, a great example is when you see, you know, sales roles that sound, you know, very generic and fluffy. And if you put like an operational role next to a sales role, you can't really see the difference because it's so company heavy of, you know, work for the best, be the best. And, you know, here's some general responsibilities with some tasks associated with it. But, you know, if the first question in a job description for, let's say, a hunter type sales role is, you know, do you love waking up in the morning and walking into a room full of 100 strangers and, you know, developing and creating 10 new long-lasting relationships, question mark.
I do.
Exactly. That will attract Crystal and probably repel quite a few people that will say, oh my goodness, this is not for me, right?
Christian just nodded his head. He's like, that's not for me. That's exactly it, right? It's the right words attract the right type of people for the right position.
And it really sets the expectation as opposed to, all right, I hired a salesperson and now, you know, they're not meeting expectation, but I didn't realize they're not comfortable walking in and meeting complete strangers. It was just they would be. So
I'll give you one extra bonus tip in here. One of the tools we've used with a couple of our clients is video resumes. And that has changed the game. So this one particular client was getting oodles and oodles, 500-600 resumes when they put out a job post. And I said, okay, well, let's change the game a little bit. Let's only request a video resume. So we'll ask them 5 questions. We need a 3-minute response. This was for a middle-level manager role. So, you know, we want those responses, but you know, instead of getting 500, we got about 35 video resumes. It was perfect because that's what you want. Who wants to go through 500 resumes, right? That are not your ideal candidate. And so all of a sudden, then we go through a deeper dive process on allowing the cream to come to the top. So allowing those people that succeed to really get there. All right, let's keep things moving here. I know we're behind. So now let's get into sales and service mastery. And so Lawrence, we're at 11:43 here. I'd love to hear your story about a new and exciting car company that's in town.
So again, we're quite far behind on time, but I'll just share it because it's such a great example of recognizing that you need to have a process, and like everything else we talked about, you need to be selling by design. And so products and services really don't sell themselves, right? No matter how much we wish they did. You know, there's an underlying distrust in so many things right now in technology and products and services. And so taking buyers through the psychological steps to purchase is critical. Removing obstacles to having them purchase is critical. And so a great example of this is, I don't know if any or all of you are familiar with PFAFF Automotive based here in Vaughan, Ontario. Along the lines of journey mapping, what FAF has done is they've basically taken the worst part, what we all hate about buying cars and the car purchase journey, and they've completely flipped it on its head. And so we don't really have time to get into what that means, but I encourage you to look it up and just, think about whatever sales process you have today and make it simple. If people want to give you money, make it easy for them to do it. Take away all the friction points. And I know that sounds silly, but I've seen it so many times in recent, as recently as the last month in businesses that I affiliate myself with. I want to give you money, or someone wants to give me money, and there's 5 steps in between. If you look at the statistics of the billions of dollars that are sitting in unchecked virtual shopping carts right now throughout the world, because people wanted to buy something and the form glitched out or something happened and they just closed it and walked away, right? When someone wants to buy, along your process, let them do it.
Yeah, make it easy to for people to buy from you, right? There, a quick story is, I remember going to a festival, and very few people had Interact set up. I mean, does anybody carry cash anymore, right? Like, it's just, and that was just probably a year ago. Well, definitely before COVID, but it was about a year ago. And, there's all these great things that I wanted to purchase, but the bank machine, or that little machine that they had set up, was like at the absolute other end of the festival. So by the time I went there, I ended up buying 2 or 3 other things except the thing I really wanted, right? So to make it easy for people to give you their money is a really, I would say that's a big takeaway today, is make sure that, you go through as a leader in your organization, please go through that buying process. What is that buying process like? One last thing is, has anybody ever purchased from Vistaprint? Hands up if you've purchased from Vistaprint before. Anybody? What happens at the end of your Vistaprint? You're buying your business cards. What happens after, Roger? You want to share with me what happens when you go to try to cash out your business cards with Vistaprint? Oh, you're on mute. Let me ask him to mute.
I'm unmuted apparently.
Yeah, there you go.
You can hear me now. It's been a year. I can't remember what happened.
You can't remember?
It clearly didn't stand out for me, unfortunately.
Fair enough. But I bet
I'm assuming they send us the confirmation and tell us when it's going to arrive, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So typically what they actually do is, when you go to purchase something. So I went to go purchase some water bottles, and they understand a little bit about your brand. They take your logo and they put it on 20 other things that you might want to purchase. And 9 times out of 10, you buy at least 3 of those things. And when you buy those things, right, it sometimes are even worth more than the original purchase. And then they have this whole idea of making sure that they're under promising and over delivering. They have like a standard, I think it's 2 days or 3-day delivery period. Like, they don't promise 24-hour delivery. Maybe they do since COVID. But I always got my purchases within 24 hours, even though they said that standard 3 days, right? So some key things you can start to do in your sales and service mastery process is you want to be able to really, under promise and over deliver. All right, let's keep things moving here with coaching confidence is our next step. And so coaching confidence, I always like to share this because in all the organizations I've worked with, my biggest role as a leader was to be a really great coach. And I found that as a really great coach, my goal was to be able to really push and inspire people and ignite people to do the things that they didn't want to do, so that they could get the results that they really, really wanted, right? So it's like, they didn't want to pick up the phone and make those cold calls, or they didn't want to pick up the phone and do the follow-up. Well, listen, that's the result, but the habit is going to get you there, right? So what's the habit that you need to do on a daily basis to get that result? Well, hey, I want all the sales. I want to sell 10 houses. I want to sell lots of leather jackets. Well, then we got to identify what that habit is. And the habit comes from your behaviors, right? What are the behaviors that are pushing you towards your habit? What's your belief system like? And do you trust that process will actually work? And so as a coach and a leader, I think all too often we get caught up in the minutia of, it's our job to make the schedule. I got to get the invoicing out. I got to do this. I got to follow up on, can you agree with me? There's a lot of operational stuff that as leaders, we sometimes get bogged down with, right? And so that's important. But the bulk of your time as a leader should be to create an environment where people feel like they can thrive and succeed. And it's through coaching. It's through making sure that you're spending that one-on-one time with your team. And I often say this to leaders that we work with is that, you know, let me take a look at your schedule. And I look at their schedule for 1 week, and then I'm like, okay, let me look at the next week. I look at 4 weeks of scheduling, and there's not a minute of coaching time in there, right? Their weeks are jam-packed. But hey, you have a staff of 25 people. There's no reason in a 40-hour work week you can't spend at least 20 minutes with 5 of your people. They're your most important asset. They are your most important asset. So, you know, even over the course of a month, if you've got 25 people or 30 people in your organization, you know, can you spend that 5-10 minutes with everybody? The other part of coaching is it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out coaching session. If you're noticing that their behavior is or isn't aligned with what you've asked, coach them right then and there, right? Coach them right away and say, hey, listen, I just want to congratulate you. You know, stick a gold star on them, or hey, just want to clarify, you're comfortable using that particular machine, or you're comfortable using that, right? And you can coach them right then and there. All too often, leaders wait till that annual review to do a coaching session. And like, you can't win a football, well, maybe you can win a football game, I don't know lately, but you usually can't win a football game in that last couple seconds, unless you're the Raptors and you're winning a basketball game in the last 5 seconds. You know, that is hard. So you need to really make sure that you're inspiring people. All right, Lawrence, anything else? We're down to 9 minutes. So for those of you that are on a hard stop at 12 o'clock, I understand. But if you could stick around with us till maybe 10 after, that would be fantastic. We'd love it. Lawrence, anything you'd like to add to this?
I would just say back to the, you know, culture, openness, transparency, and coaching. You know, when you ask your team to bring one problem to you, you know, let's say you meet weekly or bi-weekly, you know, and Crystal said, keep it simple. You know, bring one problem that you'd like me to help solve with you. And, you know, you need to ensure that that's not someone throwing a monkey on your back, that it's in fact their own monkey. But, you know, by creating that environment of let's solve things together, and, you know, you're there to help them be successful, it's a really productive exercise that I've seen great success with.
Yeah, I think leaders have to have the courage to have those conversations, right? Leaders have to have the courage to ask those questions and to have those deep conversations. All right, so give us a thumbs up if you learned some good stuff in the last 45 minutes. Awesome, awesome. We give some good value. So we're going to break out into breakout rooms right now. Like I said, we've only got to, if anybody has to leave, I totally respect your time and I understand that, but we'd love to break out in breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. And we've got a question for you. And so out of the 7 steps that you just learned, I'd love for you to kind of star and earmark or just kind of highlight 3 steps that you believe, given today's kind of COVID world, what are those 3 steps out of the 7 that you learned that you think would have the biggest impact on the success in your organization today? And even if you could just improve it by 10%. So let's break out into rooms, everyone, and we'll have those quick chats. We've got a small group here, so we'll probably just break out into two breakout rooms. Sound good?
Perfect.
Actually, I'm gonna change it up. Are you guys okay if we all just stick around and have this conversation? Just for the sake of time? How do we feel about that? We're good? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So who would like to, what's that, Lawrence?
Welcome to the breakout room.
Welcome to the breakout room. It's a one big breakout room. So go ahead, and if you guys want to just put your hand up or unmute yourself, this is the interactive part. I'd love for you to share. Brittany, Ilana, Wunmi, Adele, feel free. Roger, who would like to start us off? Of course, our good friend Roger is always going to start us off. Awesome, Roger. Tell us, what are the 3 things you think?
Well, I'm going to start at the top, and I think the first one you mentioned is critical to starting that customer experience journey with an organization. You've got to make that commitment. You got to create that vision. You got to make that brand promise to your customers, because that sets the tone for every discussion, every interaction, every training session, every dialogue series that you have moving forward. You frame everything around the brand promise to your customers.
Yeah, and so often organizations kind of bypass that promise, right? And they align it with the vision, but it's not the same.
And I'm going to argue, and I know I'm using different terminology than used, and I apologize for that, but if you can help, and through this, and I guess it's the coaching side of it, but if you can help individuals in the organization understand how they are aligned to that promise and how they contribute to delivering that promise, that is the most powerful engagement tool in the toolbox. It is what helps people feel important. It helps them feel like they're a part of a team. It helps them feel that they are contributing to the success of the organization. And when they get engaged and they understand that, engaged employees take care of customers, disengaged employees don't. And engaged employees go the extra mile to take care of the business and customers. That's it. If you can do all of that, and it's not that hard, but if you can do that, all the other things come so much easier once you have that engagement level and that promise in place.
Yeah. And there's a level of alignment too with the employee engagement. So you know, an employee's expectation and an employer's expectation need to be aligned. I think so all too often they're not aligned, right? An employee expects this because other people have gotten it or they've seen it before. An employer says, well, no, we're changing the role a little bit. We expect this. But that has never been communicated, right? And so that alignment is really important so that once it's aligned, then, you know, that employee has a confidence in the autonomy to continue to service their customer the way they want to.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Think of the brand promise as a roadmap for employees. You know, if your actions and the things that you're doing are not aligned with that promise, then you probably need to think about stopping doing it.
Yeah. Alana, I'd love to hear from you. Now you're with 21 Toys, is it?
Yes, yeah. And
Yes.
Brittany and I are both with 21 Toys.
Perfect.
So I think I actually wanted to add before the answer to the 3 steps, my thinking around customer journey. I'm really ruminating on just the idea that while we're building out the experience for our customers, it's equally as important. And what I'm hearing is it's really parallel to have that same experience for my team.
Yes.
And so that's something that's really interesting. I think I would say Brittany and I, and then like the team in general, we're like en route to those steps. I think naming them and prioritizing them and seeing who is supporting that's definitely where we're at like today. So what we have been given a very exciting challenge, which is we are surviving COVID with a really exciting pivot. But it has made it so that it's highlighted that we really need to better understand the core customers that we are now going to be prioritizing, not just understanding who they were before COVID, but also understanding where they at now with COVID. So creating that journey and that roadmap, and then Brittany's going to be given the very exciting task to be looking into what is the sales experience, as well as a team, we're going to be looking at really the customer journey. But I'm still sitting with how I could be doing more things to consider in terms of just from a leadership point of view, how I can either do things directly or empower other people in leadership positions in the team.
Yeah, and you said something really critical there is, you know, starting with your employee experience. I always say you have 2 customers. You have your internal customer and your external customer. And so that internal customer, not only is it your employees, but it's also, you know, you guys make fantastic toys. And so it could be your vendors, it could be your other colleagues and partners in business. Those are your internal customers, right? If you're going to send somebody an email that's not the same communication you would send to a customer, then you probably shouldn't be sending it, right? So just aligning that internal customer first, then because if they are not like uber happy and raving fans of the organization, then it's going to be challenging for anybody to create raving fans if they're not on that same page. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I'd love to hear from Adele and Wunmi. You're both on there. If you're still around, I'd love to hear from you.
Well, yeah, I hope you hear me all right.
We can. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it was a great experience. I learned a lot today from the sessions. So I want to share two points. I love to hear it. This is the vision and the coaching, both two steps. The vision is the most important for any company to have a clear vision, and the most important is to have the clear for the employees themselves to move ahead and to know exactly where to going. And building the vision that should be built from the company and from employees itself. This is very important for everyone to note in the organization, and every employee in the organization knows what does this means, which is adding value to the company itself and to the customers, and to the experience of the customers with the products. And the other point is the coaching. Actually, I'm a coach. I love this terminology, because this means every day you are learning something for your coachee and for yourself as well. All employees have a different mentality, and they have a different understanding, and every day you are trying to understand them more and more. And what was amazing for me, that every coaching session I'm running with the employees in my company 11 times per month. This is just coaching sessions. And every time I was expecting that I'm highlighting some points, but every time I'm learning a lot, new points, new thinking, new different people understanding. So wherever the coaching process in any of any companies is a continuous process with all your employees, and as you said, with all internal customers that you have. This is one of the key success for any of the companies.
Yeah.
So this is my shares.
It sometimes seems counterintuitive. You know, when I look back on the highest performing teams I worked with, when we were smashing through all of our targets, I'd say 60 to 70 to sometimes 80% of my time was spent only coaching.
Absolutely.
And when we were performing, you know what I mean? And when we weren't performing well, it was when I felt disconnected from the team and everyone was too busy to meet. And you know, that alignment that we're talking about was missing.
I love what Crystal was saying, that when you're checking your calendar, you will not find time for coaching. But absolutely, this is the main priority. You should have at least 5 minutes, at least 10 minutes, wherever. All the time you'll find this 10 minutes. But when you're checking your calendars, you will not find them.
I remember when I worked in a retail environment, I was going from location to location to location. I was on the road all the time. Yes. And I made a point that every time I was on the road, you know, if I was going into a store, I'd pull 2 people and I'd go and have a coffee with those 2. And then I might be there till the afternoon. I'd have lunch with 2 other different people. And then I might say, okay, let's walk through the mall and go take a look at some of the windows. And I'd walk with 2 different people. So in my 8-hour day, I now got an opportunity to spend 5-10 minutes with 6 people, right? So you have to make a conscious, intentional effort to make it a priority within your organization. All right, so I'm going to keep going. Unless anybody else wants to share, I'm going to keep going here. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes, please.
So I looked at the 7 things you've listed, and I don't see anything addressing tools like data metrics tools. So I'm wondering, where does that fit? How do you get quality data to make your customer experience decisions?
Great question. Great question. Mm-hmm. Actually, it fits at every element. So again, today is a 1-hour session, so we're not diving as deep, but you know, employee engagement is a metric that we in the customer experience world is a top priority for us. NPS scores is a top priority for us. And then obviously the business results are a top priority as well. But customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction seem to kind of be our top. Roger and Christian and Lawrence, I'm sure you guys would agree that those are kind of our top pillars. And so when I look at the 7 steps, you know, we look at designing to delight, which is the journey mapping kind of stage. We involve our customer experience metrics as well as our NPS scores and employee engagement. In top talent, in that step, when we train that step, we use a system called Office Vibe, which is a tool that Disney uses that helps to measure the employee experience and the level of satisfaction. So metrics is I'm so glad you brought it up, but it's a huge component of customer experience, because the reality is you can't move the dime forward unless we know where we are and we have a clear benchmark, and then we can know where we're going. We also use focus groups as well as mystery shopping, online mystery shopping, phone mystery shopping, and face-to-face mystery shopping to be able to analyze and get that data that we need to be able to drive everything. So The one thing I would be careful with though is which metrics you're looking at. All too often people, organizations are focusing on, you know, that bottom line metric. And what we want to be looking at is that employee retention, that loyalty, that, you know, those holistic, I want to say, I don't know if that's the right word, but those metrics that we're not used to looking at are the ones that really create experience excellence within organizations. So
is there going to be a session about those, about tools and metrics?
Yeah, well, we can make one by request. I'd be happy to put something together when we,
I do encourage.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So give us some time and we'll try to we have an arsenal of tools. Just the people on this call today, I know all have kind of their go-to tools that we use. So for sure, actually, that's a great topic. Let's put that on our calendar for November. We've got our lineup right now until the end of October, but I'd be delighted to put something together like that for you, for sure.
Great, thank you.
And if there's a specific data piece that you're looking for, Winmi, reach out to me directly or Lawrence, and we can definitely connect you with a specific piece that if you're looking for it sooner. Sound good?
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
No, awesome. So let me just share this with you and we'll wrap things up here. Thank you so much for everybody being patient with us and staying to continue this conversation. All right. Awesome. So I'm gonna we just did our little debrief. And so as we mentioned, we promised you a couple of things. So as a thank you, you will receive an email with some templates. We also encourage you though to join our CX Solutions Facebook group where we'll have the recording of this session and some extra bonus templates for you. And we're happy to also set up a 30-minute discovery call to help you start to implement this. So if you want to chat a little bit further about some of the digital components and the metrics, then we can certainly hop on a call. So the email following this webinar, you'll get it by the end of today. And in that email, you'll be able to set up some time to chat and continue the process. Awesome. So customer experience mastery, we're super excited about it. We have now automated our whole mastery program, which is like just thrilling for us. We've been teaching the course for several years now, but with the power of automation, we're able to kind of create online courses, but then also interact some of the core components where we can actually have face-to-face as well as live dialogue. So we'll send you some more information on this as well. But if it's something that you're interested in kind of diving into in one specific area, let us know. But as an entire program, the beauty of this program is a foundational program. It's a one-year journey. And every 6 weeks, we take you through a module where you're implementing and perfecting that within your organization. So, you know, we don't go on to Lovesick Leadership until we're really clear on what Vision Vitals looks like and how we practice it on a daily in our organization. So you have 6 weeks to kind of perfect that. You know, they say 21 days to perfect a habit. So we've designed the program so that you're able to kind of get clear, get the foundation, move to the next, and then we link everything together. So that's an option. There's also funding available for that, which I'll pass over to Lawrence real quick.
I'll just say, because I know a lot of people are in the process of budgeting right now and planning for 2021. These programs do qualify for the Canadian Ontario Job Grant or the Canadian Alberta Job Grant or whatever province you're in. Depending on the size of the organization, 50 to 80% of the training is funded by the grant. So now is really the time to start considering these things and working them into your implementation and action plans for 2021.
And it is, I've been on the phone last couple of weeks with quite a few funding providers. It's looking like the end of September, early October will probably be the end of the funding for this year. And then it probably won't be released until April if it's released at all. So just a heads up, if it's something that you're looking at, we can start to kind of have those conversations. Last but not least, we have our next session, September 21st at 11 a.m. We're talking about designing to delight. We're talking all things journey mapping here again. This is our third Design to Delight session because it's been such a popular topic. People want to know a little bit more about journey mapping, how to do it, why it's important. And so we're going to share all that with you. We're also going to share how to gather the right data for designing to delight. Is where, you know, where do you kind of start from? What is that persona design? And Almira Cruzen. She's a good friend and colleague of mine, the past VP of Operations with Roots Canada. Now she's in Dubai right now today. And so she has now opened a global retail consulting firm. And so she's going to share with us how she really transformed the guest experience before Roots and obviously the Roots Canada experience. So excited to have her. Awesome. So that's it for us, folks. Thank you so much for being here and giving us some extra time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. But if you have more questions, we'll stay on for a little bit longer and we can move forward. Also, you will be getting a survey in the chat, but also in an email. I'd love to get your feedback on the survey. It'll help us to redesign the next series of webinars that we go into October and November. So that's it for us, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye
Thanks.
now.
Bye.
Whew.
Great.
Yeah. Did you stop recording?